Hello, good afternoon. Welcome to this Endeavor Black History Month event. My name is Brian Brackeen. I'm general partner of Lightship Capital. And I'm also, even more proudly, an Endeavor Miami entrepreneur, and I'm on the board of Endeavor Midwest. For those that don't know, and hopefully you're here because you do, but for those that don't know, Endeavor is a global organization that's focused on growing entrepreneurship all across the globe. We're looking for really special entrepreneurs who are also positive people, and just giving them all the support, funding, and network possible to grow their businesses and therefore possibly even increase the GDPs of entire countries in a more equitable way. So couldn't be more excited about my work with Endeavor, and Miami was the first Endeavor US location, and I think continues to be one of the bright spots, of course, along with Louisville and the Midwest, for Endeavor across the US. So today we're going to have a conversation about Black History Month, and we're going to highlight two folks that have actually felt some of that Endeavor support, and just having a really open, honest, and wide-ranging conversation about where we are, where we need to be, and also how can we help these two gentlemen to be successful in their endeavors. So I'm going to let them introduce themselves. Both are kind of famous in their own right. Let's first bring on Greg from DataGovs.
Hey everybody, I'm happy to be here. My name is Gregory Johnson. I'm the co-founder of DataGovs. DataGovs is a data and AI company. We support customers like Certisum Embedding, City of Miami, Boaz Bikes. We help them organize all of their Internet of Things data so they can drive better business goals to increase sustainability, compliance, efficiency, and safety. Today, we're really excited to kind of just talk about our experience for a growing, fast-paced business. And yeah, that's a little bit about me and what we're doing.
Thanks for coming. Welcome. And let's bring on Evan with Kiddie Kredit.
How's it going, everybody? Evan Leaphart here, founder and CEO of Kiddie Kredit. Kiddie Kredit, in short, is an activity management tool that teaches kids about credit, where the premise is the better a kid does their assigned activities and or chores, the better their credit score. Happy to be here and looking forward to discussing some stuff with these guys.
Excellent. So again, I'm going to keep it open, wide-ranging. I want to hear what you guys want to say. I'm also, as any good moderator, not going to make it about myself, other than saying Lightship Capital is a venture capital fund focused on women and minorities in the Midwest and South. If you're looking to grow your business and looking for a good partner, visit us at lightship.capital and apply for investment. We exclusively invest in women and minorities like these gentlemen here. Also follow me on Twitter because I'm spicy on Twitter. It's backwards. All right, so to get started, on the kind of we'll go positive side first. What are you wildly excited about, and also what are you fed up of? Feel free to share.
Greg, you want to go?
I'll let you go first. I got a lot.
Fair enough. I would say I'm excited about the outside sentiment towards Miami, right? Like you go in places and you say like, oh, I'm from Miami, and you say how long you've been here, and they're like, oh, so you were there before like the whole tech thing kind of came about, right? So it's cool to hear our city like in that reference. And like actually see companies coming, technologists coming, from like a wide lens, right? So that's what I would be excited about, right? I've always been very bullish on our city. I feel that there's so many tremendous opportunities here. I've always said we're shifting towards an environment of more remote work, and people can work from wherever. And if that becomes the case, that's when Miami starts to move up the ranks. So I think we're starting to see that. But I would say on the other side of things, I feel like we're doing some of the same things that have happened in other environments, and it's going to leave, some people behind. I think one thing, I have a business that's raised venture capital. Brian is investing with having a venture capital fund. One thing that me and Greg always talk about too is just that's not the only way of being able to grow your business, and bootstrapping is the best way. So I do feel that there's a lot of companies that are getting lost in the sauce because everything is venture focused. And I don't want to see that happen for businesses that are running super efficiently and making the traction that VCs are actually trying to invest in the first place. So I would say that's my synopsis.
Greg?
Yeah, to touch on that point, for us at DataGovs, we're completely bootstrapped. We're investing all of that profits back into our business and building our products. So I think one of the exciting things for us is, just access to customers and proximity. We're always happy to talk with our customers. You think Miami, as it becomes the capital of capital, there's a lot of crypto players. So DataGovs is one of the only organizations in the world that has the top 2 crypto IoT players as partners, as well as users of our software, Helium and IOTA. So I think proximity to customers is great. And just kind of like looking at Miami in terms of like the problems to be solved that are unique to Miami. We think sustainability is a big one as you look at kind of electrification of vehicles, rising seas. For us, we're working with a lot of customers that are using us kind of as their kind of solution for out of the box smart buildings. So we're seeing folks look at AC analytics, air quality, all those different things. For us, having folks like Watsco, which are right up the road, is a publicly traded company, just hit 5 million in revenue. Having all of those different synergies make what we're doing a lot really more compelling, as well as I think one of the only, like, for what we're doing as a business, it makes it a lot easier to grow and kind of find the right partners as we go along the way. So those are some things that I'm excited by. To touch on kind of Evan's point, I think Miami still, and is always from the time that I've been here and grown up here as a city, has always been siloed in many ways. So while there's a lot of opportunity, it's not necessarily accessible. I think with the shifting of outsiders coming into Miami, there's going to be a lot more kind of like energy towards kind of like building in new ways. We're just hoping that as we build, we kind of include the right people and, just highlight the local founders that are building sustainable long-term businesses and bring them into the ecosystem. So if that next billionaire comes to Miami, they can get a warm introduction and kind of take it from there. So those are things that I wish we saw a little bit more here in Miami.
So, and I'll just say quickly for the crowd, for those watching on YouTube or other platforms, you can leave a comment on the stream. We will see those comments here on our side, and we will, if you have questions, we will reference those questions during the stream. Another quick question, really, for you both, and I hear this a lot. I don't always have a good answer. There sometimes feels like there's 2 Black tech Miamis, right? So there's one where the 3 of us see each other at different events all over the city. It's exclusive, non-exclusive, open invitation, private invitation, right? And then there's another where there's a whole different group of Miamians, Black Miamians, that feel like they're not being invited to those events. We see them at other events, like separately, right? I know for a fact all 3 of us try to kind of bridge that gap. But 1, do you see that as being a thing or not? And then 2, how do we start to kind of get just a one Miami?
I do see that as a thing. And it's unfortunate. It's something that we need to make progress towards. I do try to always understand like what my friends or just other companies are doing, so I can at least be like bring one more company that you may know like to the table, and I can't just roll everywhere like 20 deep, like, yo, we're outside, we're here like in NWA. But I try to at least be strategic to like move the needle forward, and I keep it going that way. Like I feel like it's kind of the same thing when I'm at a job. Like you want to make sure that whatever you're doing is going to like pave the way for like somebody else to interact. But I think we need to just continue to amplify, right? Like if there's an event here and it's like it's not something that like is exclusive invites or whatever, like we let everybody know that we can. And I think we try to do that amongst each other with like chats and just like, yo, check this out. Or if it's industry specific, like, yo, have you heard about this? But yeah, it's like, I would just trying to prevent like just same clicks moving with same clicks, investing in the same click companies and like inviting, like that has to be disrupted a little bit. But I think we're making progress with that.
Thoughts, Greg?
Yeah, I think anywhere that you go to, whether it's SF or Miami or New York, there's always going to be networks and people, depending on who you know, you have access to the networks, you don't. For me, I tend to think about it less about just, this kind of context of Black, and just think about it like who are the best and excellent performers. And I always bring back my time at Microsoft. So Ryan did civic innovation at Microsoft, but I was the top performer, not the Black top performer in my role. So here in Miami, I think there's a lot of different top performers. And, if you get within that right network, you're building the right customers, product, you tend to get into those. And at some points, if you're not invited to the table, you have to just create your own table. Art Basel came. There's a lot of different events for us. We put together and got the right resources. We created our own data and AI Basel. We invited our customers and partners. So I think it's just about creating the right tables. And, if you're not invited to that table, build it. And I think oftentimes when you're making money, the right people often show up because they want to be a part of that. And they usually spread the word if you're doing great work. So I think about it in those terms. And I think in that sense, while there may be two splits of where Black Miami is, and me as a founder, we just focus on trying to be the best we can and serving the best customers and just letting that kind of laws of attraction kind of lead the right people to us.
Had a comment from YouTube saying it'd be nice to have an umbrella group for Black Tech Miami. I think there's some really good WhatsApp groups and Slack groups and some other things that I think serve that purpose. But and I think to Greg's point, we do try to get together during these larger events. I think I might have seen both these guys like 8 times that week during Basel Week. You know what I mean? Like, so I think we gotta definitely keep doing that. Something Greg just said really triggers some emotion in me, which is just being the gosh darn best at what you do, period, independent of race. So I want to ask you guys in a strictly non-racial, intentionally non-racial construct, what makes you both the best at what you do?
For me, I come from a sales background, and this isn't my first business. It's my first tech startup, but Kiddie Kredit is like my 9th business. So I've always appreciated the value of relationships. So I think what I do best as a founder is relationship building. I would put myself in a top tier for that. And I'm not afraid to ask questions. Like I'll never represent myself as like the smartest person in the room if I know I'm not. And I think because of that, I've been able to go a long way with our company and even in previous businesses, just because I do great at dealing with people. And I think it's a very overlooked quality sometimes. And in a lot of different businesses, sometimes you can burn bridges just because you're kind of just focused on being one way and your way of the highway. So I would put that as my biggest strength, that and then my sales abilities.
Yeah. So to kind of just, is that a question about self or business that we're talking about?
I'll take either. You're great both ways.
Yeah. I mean, for us at DataGovs, we see ourselves as one of the single focused data governance companies in the IoT space, enabling digital twins for a lot of business in a really easy way. So we see ourselves being different in that case. And then our partnerships, as well as who we enable in terms of business, is really unique. As I mentioned, we're the only company in the world with Helium and IOTA, 2 top crypto IoT players that have worked with large governments and been in the field for a long time. So we're tracking a lot of assets. So I see that in the team that we have is, representing the best of the talent. We have folks that are leading engineers from Costco, Comcast, AB InBev that have worked on hard machine learning, mobile payment infrastructure problems that are bringing the best skills to the table. And we see that difference in the retention of our customers as we grow. In terms of me, myself, I've been in tech for the last 10 years. I think you've met me when I was in high school. And around that time, I've been able to see and be a part of early teams that have had 2 successful exits, work at Microsoft, and just like in my spare hobby, work on open data, as well as open source based projects. So for us, just proximity to customers and the problem. I think we hear it a lot of times in SF kind of narratives of that guy working in the basement or that guy working elsewhere and just building these different things. For me and the work that we've done with the team, it's a lot of those kind of same personalities where if they weren't paid for this, they'd still be working on it. And that gives us a different taste and passion towards the problems we're solving for our customers.
Interesting. So, at Endeavor, we're really, really big on mentorship. That's like key to the value proposition of the organization. In fact, we try to select entrepreneurs that have already reached a certain scale so that it's just about network or just about mentor. We do also invest in entrepreneurs rounds. And so I'll ask you guys this. Who is the person, you could pick anyone, that you would love to be mentored by, or you would even pay to go to their house to be mentored by? Like, who is the person that's like on that level? We'll exclude Barack and Michelle Obama from that.
We'll switch up the order, Greg. You can go.
Yeah, in terms of mentorship, I mean, if I could pay for somebody, it'd probably be kind of like Vista Capital. I forgot, is it Robert Johnson? Probably him, because we're in the B2B SaaS space. He's built a ton of businesses that have gone from 1M to 100 mil ARR. He seems to have a good feeding in terms of his portfolio, being able to repeat that for him and his organization. So I think that would be somebody I definitely want to get some mentoring and coaching on, just on the terms of growth and go-to-market strategies.
He's a good choice, Evan.
This kind of goes to the should you pay for, like, what was it, the dinner with Jay-Z, like the 500K or the dinner with Jay-Z? I'd probably take 500K, but I would say Jay would be somebody that I'd talk to, just because I've appreciated his ascent as an entrepreneur and the things that he said, seeing them come to fruition, and being able to do it with a certain level of patience. I've admired his journey as an artist. I mean, we all kind of know where his place is in the hip hop hierarchy now, but he was never really the top guy at any given time, but he stayed consistent. So just understanding how to exist and maneuver in different time periods and stay relevant. I think there's a lot to be said behind his business acumen and not just him as an artist.
Chris Rock's got a saying like, Dave Chappelle is funny to me, but I show up, right? So sometimes it's just about being consistent, being there. You can create a lot of value for yourself when you show up. But I actually agree, Dave Chappelle is funnier. Someone also said
I agree.
Someone also said in the comments, John W. Thompson, he is that dude, and I would actually deeply agree. I'm going to answer my own question because so I would say one, if it's 500K of that person, which is what you kind of made it, Evan, I would also take 500K. I think I could probably spin that into something else.
I can take 50K and then figure out how to get that dinner.
Totally, I could get that dinner like a charity auction or whatever, right?
Yeah.
And pocket the 450. Yeah, totally. For me, it might be the gentleman that runs the Ford Foundation. Do you guys remember his name? It's Googleable. Anyway, really large, very successful work, doing a lot of work and impact. And I would love to, actually less for me, but more for him. I'd love to share with him some of the struggles in this entrepreneurship.
Is it Darren Walker? I did
Darren Walker.
Google for it.
Yeah.
All right, cool.
Yeah, Darren Walker. I'd love for him to better understand maybe some of the challenges in the entrepreneurship space and how an org that size could actually make an outsized difference without lifting a finger. Right? I'm not so sure that they're having those kinds of conversations often enough there, and I think a lot of good could be done. So on that, and this, both you guys have done really successful partnerships with larger organizations and corporations, right? One, how have you navigated that, and what would you suggest to other entrepreneurs? Is it worth it? Is it a lot of? It's also can be like a time suck, right? So how do you balance those two things? We'll start with Greg again and go to Evan.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's all about how you look at the partnership. I mean, we're a technology company, so there's a difference of putting a lot of resources in distribution versus building something that connects with existing software and using it as distribution point. For us, what we found with crypto distribution, or even with some of our partners, is when you do something really unique that a core company doesn't have the time to do, the resources to, or it's not in their wheelhouse, it benefits you. So each partnership for us represents 10 to 50 million in terms of ARR we can get if we just dominate that space and that specific thing. So when you look at that, for us, it's been really beneficial as we kind of think about these network effects. As you think about other businesses that have kind of run similar paths in our space, I mean, it's not uncommon to leverage partnerships, whether it's independent software vendorship, partnership, or some type of system integrated to kind of leverage networks that are already existing to do things better. So I think it's all about how you look at it. For us, in our case, it's been really beneficial when you look at our metrics and KPIs, as well as how it's helping us with customer acquisition. It's been just really beneficial, and it's helped us kind of to ease up a lot of the weight that may happen when you're working with kind of larger companies and enterprises. Oftentimes having that cosign or customer story is a good signal to other companies that are in that space, which means you can get to that deal a lot faster. So in our case, that's how we kind of navigated it. And to answer the question, yes, it's been really beneficial.
I think for me to echo that, absolutely been beneficial. Though the bigger the behemoth, right, the longer it'll take. But I think the way that you can break in there as a founder is really just like listen, right? So I remember one of my my sales jobs. We were doing event sales, and we were like, before we could close the deal, we had to try to find the CEO of like the large company. And then one of the tricks to do it would be, hear podcasts from them or just hear kind of what they're talking about and what their pain points are. And then you'd be surprised sometimes if you have just something that really solves a challenge, like DataGovs does, or like, Kiddie Kredit does when it comes to trying to understand about credit at a younger age. It gets ran up the flagpole a lot quicker. And then it's something that they can kind of get behind. So that was what happened for us. I sent into the general inquiry box at Equifax our executive summary, like, hey, who knows? And the president of Equifax Foundation said, I've been here for over 15 years and I've never seen a 2-gen approach towards trying to teach about credit. And that was how that relationship built, because it was a problem that resonated. So if your business is really solving a problem and you have a viable solution for that, just really lead with that and keep knocking down doors, and then find your internal evangelist. There will be somebody that knows a bunch of people that can make intros. And then when that person makes that intro, people move because of how their sentiment towards that person. So just, look for that internal evangelist, and it'll take you a long way. Even if they go onto a different role or to a different company, they still may be beneficial.
Yeah, I'm actually going to pivot it back to Black History Month here, but I do want to just point out for everyone who's watching, right, this last section that actually wasn't about that topic. You see the breadth of knowledge that these guys have in these areas. And so if you yourselves are putting on panels, you don't have to only invite the Black person to be on the Black panel. You can actually invite them just to be experts in their discipline. And that actually it's so much more impactful to the audience to see that expertise in standard situ, as we would say, or the standard situation, than just cramming us all into the Black panel. So
the February itinerary gets packed.
It does. We're all so busy February. Give us some more time. We need more time. But this is the reason for this particular talk. So I want to bring it back to that. But first, there is a question. I'm always going to go to the audience questions first. AAITCH from YouTube says, what are the ways Black Tech Miami can level up in 2022? Are there any hacks, any to-dos, resources that we aren't taking advantage of to level our businesses up?
Yeah. You want to take it? I think I'll let you go if you want to go.
Go ahead.
I think for like Black Tech Miami, I can't speak for the community. I think more broadly for Miami and for anybody that's a minority stepping into the tech ecosystem, it's about really evaluating your business, right? Are you a high growth tech business, or are you just a small business? A lot of people try to be a small business looking for high growth, and they're like, doing something that doesn't really scale well, but if they're just in their local mom and pop shop, they could probably be a nice $1 million business. But it necessarily isn't in the space of like where we see DataGovs, where it's like right now we're on track for like 7 figures. And then it's like, okay, once you hit 7 figures, then we can hit that next figure, and then we can hit that next figure. So we can do that because at scale, number of customers can leverage our platform, and we can not have to wake up and kind of do customer support. So not everybody is in that type of business. And I think for the community at large, for tech and for minorities, it's about seeing those two pathways and knowing that just because it's not a high growth business doesn't mean it's not something that can do beneficial. It can't be beneficial. I'd also say what I see and what I encourage folks to do is, leverage the fact that Miami is a diverse and inclusive place. For us and our staff, about 50% of them are Hispanic, Latinx. We have folks that are, Caucasian in terms of race and ethnicity, folks that are, from different places. I think encouraging yourself to kind of say, hey, I have this experience and I know what it's like to be in the room, to be the only person of this color, and saying, how can I use that to my advantage, bring different people with different perspectives? That is really compelling. And I think what we've seen in kind of like our bottom line is like customers coming from different places, from Switzerland to Congo to Nigeria, onto our platform, because we have that different variety of people, to even in Latin America. So think about kind of like diversity and inclusion as a strength, I think, is one area. And then just really evaluate like what type of business you're building. It's okay to start small and then think about how to get big later. But that's what I see kind of missing in kind of these discussions.
I agree with you 100%. There's I think it was Maxime from Caribou. I was the first person I heard say his terminology. It was like, is your business bankable or is your business backable, right? Like there is two different types of businesses, and just understanding that lens first, if it comes to looking for funding or wherever it is, that'll push you in the directions that you need to be. So understanding that is key. I would say with Black Tech Miami, I wouldn't be doing my job to also say, I co-founded the Black Men Talk Tech Conference, and while it zooms outside of Miami, we based it here our first year, and then our last 2 years have been a virtual environment. We're looking to bring some things back in person here. I got into that for the reasons that you made in your comments, right? It's like we want to build a larger ecosystem of not just Black founders, but we also need Black technologists. We also need Black investors like Brian, because that's essentially the holy trinity that makes this thing move, right? Like if you just have a Black founder and then it's all white employees, what are you doing? And then if you have a Black founder and then they're raising from all white VCs, like, we're just making one particular segment of the population even wealthier. So it all goes hand in hand. And then I think resources that are not taking advantage of, I would, I live in the tech space and the venture space so often, but I really would hone in on saying, like, what is your business idea and like how large do you see it getting? If you feel like, hey man, if this became a $10 million business, I'd be happy. That's a whole different route to take, right? But if you're like, hey, I feel like this could be a $1 billion idea or a $10 billion, $100 billion idea, it's a very different route to take too. So, honestly assess your business and then like seek out the right folks, right? Like I think at the end of the day, we're all relatively accessible. And if you have anybody that you say, man, like I feel like, and not just kind of like picking somebody out, but you're like, hey, I'm in this particular field. This person knows a lot. They're a domain expert. Let me connect with them. And then you start to kind of feel your way around. I think that's the way. So just more so action. There's a lot of things that you can proactively do to work your way in with this community.
Yeah, I think you're totally right. Sorry, Greg.
No, yeah, I was completely agreeing, and end it with kind of like, also know like where you fit into the loop. Are you a product person or distribution person? I see a ton of times people come and like they have these engineering ideas. They have no idea how they're going to get it executed. And that's okay. You don't have to be an engineer to always build products. But oftentimes when I kind of say to these people, how many customers have you gotten or how many people do you have interested in it? It's kind of like, oh, well, once you build a product, it'll get done. But oftentimes being able to have that distribution path and know how you're going to execute and get to customers is a big part of it. The product part is usually not as important, depending on the type of business too. And if you don't have that part, kind of run into, I would suggest like you kind of evaluate, is this the right business for me? It's for some people, you may have 2 or 3 years to figure out how to get like certain solutions out the door. But for others that can really just knock on doors and get access to capital in terms of like people that want to pay for it, it's easier to do things like grow your business and find people that want to support you because you have customers and you've created some form of value.
Really, really good points. Really good points. Actually, to Evan's point about, I mean, again, this is kind of selfish, but I think Black investors do matter. I was just participating around in Miami, the first Miami deal, where it was all Black investors. A company called Boot Up, run by Chandler Malone. So hopefully you guys have met him. New to town.
That's my guy. He's a hooper. We play basketball.
There you go. He's got some hoop skills as well, right? Yeah. And so for him, he decided that he wanted to have an all Black seed round for the reasons that Evan laid out. And we were lucky to be part of it, and we'd love to see it. We're happy to work with everybody, of course, but it's for us to kind of catch up as a group. We're going to have to pour some extra kind of into it. So another question from the groups. This is actually, what can be done to keep our foot on the gas and sustain momentum for 2022? This is what the background is saying. There was this wave of cash announced, right? Last year, I didn't see all of it, but at least announced. How do we kind of keep that going, or at least how do we keep Black and marginalized entrepreneurs in our forefront for 2022?
Keep building. The better our businesses do, show improve. And yeah, I think it's, as founders, we pop our heads out to fundraise or, to be helpful, but then we just get back to our businesses and I could give a longer definition, but I really feel like that's the answer. It's just to continue growth, build and display those KPIs that says, look, we started here and then here's where we're at, and then just continuing to build up the tribe.
Yeah, I'd say on the tech wave, it depends on how people look at it. It could be a wave, but it could be a moment or a movement. I think about it as there is a lot of more customers that are in proximity depending on your type of business. If you're in the SaaS business and you're selling to other businesses that are in technology, it's a great time. But there's also access to capital. But you also have to kind of flag and look at, where is this capital going? Somebody just made that kind of question, is it going to minority-based founders? I just encourage folks to not just look at folks that Brian is the only and be all to getting funding. I think VCs and having more minority VCs is a great gateway to finding and getting to bigger companies. And oftentimes people don't think about that. There's Founders Fund in here in Miami. There's SoftBank. There's these big brand names. If you look at traditional seed rounds, being able to get funding from any one of these changes your trajectory in a lot of ways. And that's because some of these VC firms have a lot of ties to repeatable growth models. And that may not always be received at different places. So I would say to keep our foot on the pedal, it's about seeing how we can step into these rooms and get into some of these bigger funds, because I think those really matter. And what we've seen is those are really growing. Look at a company called Lola, that's an insurance company. It's got 18 million, I think, from Founders Fund. 2 young men, Hispanic, but they got this funding and now they're growing a lot. I think we kind of sell the fact that some of the firms that if you get some VC funding from really do help you in your trajectory. And now we have access to a lot more of them. So how can we get more kind of people funded from them? And these are really because the funding sizes are different, right? I think, Brian, you've raised 50 mil. Some of these funds have billions of dollars allocated. So for them, cutting you a $2 million check is really easy. They can do that in their sleep. And those are the deals that can really kind of be meaningful. So that's what I mean in terms of looking at the broad kind of VC groups that are coming here.
Yeah, I would say I'm a big fan of Founders Fund, and they can be, the people have different feelings about them. I'll say this, even given my last comment about all Black rounds and that kind of thing, you would be mathematically crazy, mathematically ill, to turn down $20 million investment in the first round from Founders Fund, so you can take $250,000 or $500,000 or $1 million from me. That is not a good idea. I'm happy to invest alongside those guys and get my little share. But I think, to Greg's bigger point, until we probably have 20 or 30, Black venture funds that are over, let's say, $20 million now. But we only have maybe one over 500 million. I'm not familiar with any that are in venture. There are other some PE and stuff, but that are venture funds that are Black that are over $1 billion. I think it's 0. So we've got long ways to go. Andreessen Horowitz raises $1 billion every 3-4 months for some new crazy idea. And I'll just say, and this is again maybe my own bias, but the fact that some funds like Andreessen can raise $1 billion fund for extremely early Web3, we haven't quite figured it out yet, but we're just going to make these bets. But we can't find anyone to raise a $1 billion fund for Black people that have existed forever. Says a lot about kind of where we are, and how do we get those institutional bigger investors to bet on Greg's and bet on Evan's. Got a couple more questions, and so let's look at Mark's kind of first two, and we'll bring them up one at a time. Keep building one first. So Mark says, keep building is the best mantra, but it's clear that impressive people who can talk through the details and see the big picture, as well as these guys do, will be in the best position. Leading to this next question. How do we get more people to this level? Not all smart people can do this. I think that's fair. These guys are impressive. So I'll let's generalize it a little bit more. How do we take more women and minority founders and get them on the same hymnal where investors hear you guys and go, oh, like, okay, that's the thing. I could write that. That's an investable thing. I get it, right? Sometimes people have great businesses. I hear this myself in Miami. I hear great businesses that sometimes they just don't have that kind of that right sales pitch, to use Evan's kind of term from earlier. How do we get them there?
I would say if you have big picture, you have long vision, like using those opportunities where you get a chance to talk to a VC or talk to somebody in tech that like we would deem to be like a friendly, where you don't need anything from them, just ask questions. Like I can't stress enough, like I do nothing about the world of tech like 3-4 years ago. When I was actually like putting my mouth together to say like, hey, I'm going to start building Kiddie Kredit. Like I didn't know what a safe was. I didn't understand wireframes. Like I didn't understand like low fidelity versus high fidelity. I didn't know like different types of, like I've had early conversations with both of you. I remember first time I met Greg was like years ago at a Starbucks, and I was like amazed and still am with everything that he was doing with Code for South Florida, right? I don't want to mess it up at the time. But like I was always asking questions. So like the only reason somebody is like quote unquote smart is because they learned it at some point. So what we need to do is one, create forums where people can just candidly ask questions, which is, part of what we try to do with the tech conference. But just like finding folks that you can really talk to that have experienced the problem, and then just you start to, it's science, right? Like just over time, you start to like really formulate an opinion about something that you didn't know about before, and then you can, like, that's how it comes about. But I didn't know anything 4 years ago about anything tech, or just when it comes to fundraising in this particular avenue.
So I'm going to squeeze in, Greg, if I could ask you the next one. The very last question in the chat, and then also have you guys do a wrap up at the end of this question, as we got about 3 minutes to go. Are either of you guys concerned about what seems to be a correction in the public capital markets as to how it may affect downstream private markets, specifically VC funding for Black founders? And we're going to start with Greg since I cut him off from the last
one. No, what I worry about and get up every day to do is serve our customers, build our business, make sure our team can grow, and make sure that we're growing and growing healthily. So I don't worry about all this other stuff. I don't think about VCs and funding like on my day-to-day job. I just think about what are the best models. So no, I don't think about that at all. I think about growing my business. To answer the kind of question that was before this, I think, I don't see myself as a smart person, but I do know that I've just spent 10 years in the game. I've been with 2 teams that have sold businesses. I've seen the highs and lows. And from that experience, it's been really helpful for me as I think about building technology as somebody that's a contributor, a manager, and now somebody that's a founder of a business. I would say, as we kind of think, and I see a lot of the comments are about capital, building a business and building a functioning one is definitely different than like doing the song and dance in VC. It's very much like a specific lingo, specific terminologies. There's certain things that you have to do in order to get on radars. And it doesn't always make sense from like a business stance. It's like, okay, just make money, make enough money, show the model, and it's in. And it's like, no, there's like certain things you have to do. You got to say, hey, I'm so busy right now, I can't talk. So I'd say like learning that is a game in itself. And I think there's definitely time to be learning those things. But at the end of the day, what comes down for me in terms of like, how can we create more? It's building companies that have strong equity stakes to the point that you're not diluted. Sometimes people don't look at it, but every time you get around to funding, you're diluting yourself. So you're losing some equity from it. By having a strong kind of like cap table and also a strong kind of like ethic towards giving your employees equity, that's how we create more of these smart people. It's people working at companies, seeing an exit that may not be $1 billion exit, maybe $100 million exit, $10 million exit, multi-million dollar exit, and being able to see that and go through that process. That's what kind of gives that support. And those folks that earn some money from that, little or small, big or small, they can go and start saying, well, I've seen how it's done. Let's build these companies. So that's how I've seen it. And I think that's what we need more of. So I encourage folks that are thinking about, stepping into technology or already working at those jobs, look for those moments where we can join and see a high growth company and see all those different problems, because those perspectives really help as you're kind of building that thing if you want to build a company.
Evan, a little over, but please feel free to get a quick answer.
I want to mic drop it, man, with what he said.
Excellent. Well, thank you both for coming. Amazing chat. Guys, follow Endeavor. Do you guys want to give any Twitters or anything? Feel free.
Yeah. Follow me at DataGovs, data, and then GOVS. It's in the handle here. Follow everything related to that. You can find me on Twitter. Usually, I think there's some stuff you're going to pop up on DataGovs, but you can go to linkedin.miami. Just type that in your browser and you'll get to my LinkedIn profile. So linkedin.miami, and reach out. I'm always happy to connect, and always happy to talk with folks that have customers or want to be customers. So outside of that, always also interested in like helping people connect with the right people and sending over an intro. So happy to stay connected.
Evan, how do they find you?
First off, that domain name is fire. But at Evan Leaphart, you can find me on Twitter or LinkedIn. That's pretty where I'm most active. And then for the company, just at Kiddie Kredit, and that's credit with a K.
Thank you again. Thanks for following Endeavor. Thanks for supporting our work. We'll see you guys later.